introduce you to our first speaker of the day, Tracey Wiley, Agency Director for the Virginia Department of Small Business Supplier Diversity.
Thank you, Melody, for that introduction. I hope everyone can hear me. My name is Tracey Wiley. I'm the Agency Director for the Virginia Department of Small Business and Supplier Diversity. And my regards to Floyd Miller, our president, and the NBL community, and all the speakers and colleagues on this call. These are really unusual times, and the work that everyone is doing for our small business community is really commendable. So thank you, my colleagues. It's also my hope that all of the businesses who have joined the call today are healthy and your families are safe. Today, I'd like to just open my comments, brief comments, by sharing with you the agency's work to support our small businesses and the statewide partners in response to COVID-19. In the early weeks, the agency played a role in coordinating with the Secretary of Commerce and Trade Office and the Governor's Office to submit the application to SBA for the filing of Virginia's Disaster Relief Declaration. This declaration, once approved, opened the portal for funding on March 19th. This action immediately allowed for Virginia businesses to apply for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program that most of you all know as EIDL. Once SBA approved the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Declaration for Virginia, the eligibility for small businesses and nonprofit organizations throughout the Commonwealth affected by COVID-19 began to apply for low-interest federal disaster loans of up to $2 million by the SBA. Now, I would like to offer how our agency's role has transitioned since that time with our partners and our small businesses. The agency is primarily focused on the following three things. We are in a very high-touch communications environment to our small businesses, and we are sending most of our communications out to our first and primary audiences of about 15,000 certified companies. However, we know that Virginia has about 700,000 companies across the state, and so we are also sending daily e-blasts to nearly 1,000 community partners statewide in order to reach those businesses that are not currently certified in Virginia's SWAM and DBE programs. Many of you may fall into those categories. We are, in addition to that, using a customized reach to some of the designated agencies that many of you are affiliated with across the Commonwealth for specialized industries that may not be reflected in those certified categories. We're communicating updates as information becomes available to us from the SBA and other more purposeful organizations. The most recent release is posted on our website that can be found at www.sbsd.virginia.gov, highlighted as COVID-19. Secondly, we are serving in a referral capacity to SBA, the Small Business Administration, which you will hear a little bit more from in the next speaker, and to the Small Business Development Centers, or the SBDCs, that are typically located at our colleges and universities. We are assisting them in reaching out to their contacts to expedite questions and to support the application process. We continue to serve our small businesses who are connected to our cities, our towns, our localities by providing updates on additional resources available in those venues, and in particular in the private sector for nonprofits and faith-based organizations. And we're linking up with those private sector partners like Dominion, LISC, Verizon, JP Morgan Chase, and Facebook. So while SBSD does have financing products available at our Virginia Small Business and Financing Authority that can be found on our site, they are currently not designated as emergency or disaster relief products. However, if you find that there are products that are outside of what you may need with the SBA loan opportunities, we encourage you to look on our website and contact us. Otherwise, please continue to reach out to www.sba.gov for COVID-19 relief. We'll provide additional information after this webinar with regard to our services. I will stop there so you can learn more from SBA and other financial institutions on the panel today. The SBSD team will continue to work on your behalf. Thank you, Melody.
Thank you so much, Tracy. And I know that there are some folks that may be having a little bit of issue I see in the chat room, we might be having a little issue on quality or a strong enough connection. I do know, I want to let everyone know that if you are connected via not a landline, it could be a little tough. So it could be the carrier that you have. So if you have Wi-Fi, whether it's in your house or you're using like a Wi-Fi router or that sort of thing, or if you're on your cell phone, it could be the cell service that you have as well. But fear not, don't worry about it. This is being recorded. So on the recording side, where we're hearing Tracy, she sounded fabulous. So at the end of this week, you'll be able to access the recording and you'll be able to hear everything that she said, okay? So if it does go in and out just a little bit for you, don't worry about it. We're gonna get you the recording. All right, and I think our next person up is Carl Knoblock from SBA. Carl is the District Director for the Small Business Administration. Carl, do we have you on the line?
Melanie, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you great. Carl, take it away.
Okay, thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate it. Tracy, excellent job, excellent partner to work with through this difficult time. Appreciate everything your team's doing. To give you a little bit of background with the how things rolled out, one of the things that keeps coming up is all the confusion over the different programs, and so I'm going to try to bring clarity to it. The first thing that Congress allowed to roll out was our economic injury disaster loan, which was a 3.75% interest for up to 30 years to pay back, up to $2 million to get, and then a year deferment before making first payment. That was the only thing available at that point in time to the country. And Congress was kind enough to basically include virus because virus was not included as part of the disaster plan, but now it is, to move this forward. We knew this wasn't the best tool for everything, but it was a starting point, and Congress knew that. Then they came out here a couple of weeks ago with their CARES program. And one of the things that came out from that was an expansion of the economic injury disaster loan, which was the $10,000. And if you use those proceeds properly, that $10,000 could be forgiven through this process as you move forward. And that's done on the same website. The one thing with the economic injury disaster loans and the $10,000, that's all SBA disaster. And that's the group that handles everything related to that. One of the big questions that's coming up, those people that have registered in the 10,000 have been asking, they were told 3 days that they would get their money. Unfortunately, that was idealistic by anybody's term, especially for government. And I've been very upfront with people trying to look at 2 weeks if possible, because we think that's when they'll start flowing. So I'm hoping by the end of this week, beginning of next week, proceeds will start moving forward from the 10,000. The next one, the last one that everybody's been calling about here recently is the payroll protection plan. And that's an 8-week program to basically help the employees mainly for payroll. And what's good about this payroll is not just also what your salary is, but it also includes all the benefits dealing with it. And besides that, 75% of that loan gets used for payroll, and 25% or less gets used for paying utilities or rent, and those funds, if handled properly, can be forgiven. This program is handled through the lenders, and yes, we've known there's been problems with communication with the lenders, and it's unfortunately how we rolled it out last Friday on short notice, and now we're starting to get some clarity points, and so hopefully by the end of this week, we'll have things more in line so that our businesses can actually have lending institutions that they can go to get the proceeds they desperately need at this point in time. And with that, I will stop and wait for later on as we continue our conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Carl. We really appreciate that. Again, this session is being recorded, so we will get you a copy, or we're actually going to put it online, the session, so that you'll have it. Our next speaker is going to be Leonard Sledge, which is great. We're so excited to have him from the Department of Economic Development at the City of Richmond. So Leonard, take it away whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I truly hope that you, your families, and your extended families are safe and healthy during this pandemic. The City of Richmond, our Mayor, LeVar Stoney, we have been working for many weeks to make sure that the health, safety, and preservation of the city and its businesses and its citizens was paramount, and also making sure that we are doing everything that we can to help provide information and services to our business community. My colleague, Pat Foster, who is the director of our Office of Minority Business, is on the line as well today. And we've collectively have been working to push out information to the business community in as much of a real-time state as possible, recognizing that everything, by the minute, by the hour, by the day, things are still changing. But just to share a little bit about what we've been doing directly to respond. Several weeks ago, I reached out to a couple of people, one prominently being Floyd Miller, who's president of the MBL. And it was to start the conversation about what can we do proactively to provide resources, financial and informational resources to businesses, knowing that there would be an impact as a result of COVID-19. That conversation was the spark to create a regional collaborative, so to speak, of economic development leaders here in the greater Richmond region, organizations such as the MBL and others. And it's a clearinghouse of information, again, just so we can make sure we get information out in real time. That collective of individuals, of organizations, we've launched a Greater Richmond COVID-19 business survey to help us get more information and insight into the impact that the pandemic is having on the businesses, specifically small businesses in the region, so that we can better tailor programs, financial tools, and things of that nature, again, just to help everyone respond appropriately. In addition to that, last week we announced it yesterday, it officially launched the City of Richmond Small Business Disaster Loan Program. This is a $1 million fund that's been allocated by the city's Economic Development Authority. The specific target audience, small businesses, businesses fewer than 25 full-time employees that are still open and operating. We wanted to put a tool in place to help provide some relief so they can keep people on payroll in addition to their doors open. And so that loan program officially launched yesterday. We clearly recognize that we're not going to meet every need that exists, but to the extent that we could and will, we're working to provide bridge funding to the federal resources and other resources that are on the way. That information is on the rvastrong.org website. And that's another initiative out of City Hall that our mayor has spearheaded. rvastrong.org is a website that provides resources for individuals as well as businesses, and we will continue to push out information there. That's all I'd like to share at this time. There are a few more things that we have in the works that we hopefully will have wrapped up and pushed out this week. But again, appreciative of the opportunity, looking forward to the Q&A and anything else that Pat may have to share.
Thanks so much, Leonard. And I actually, now that you referenced Pat, I'm going to turn it over to Pat Foster, Director of Minority Business Development for the City of Richmond.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Leonard has done a great job of summarizing the resources that the city is offering. and really everyone has done so. As you have heard, there's a lot of information out there. We thank Tracey with the state and call and his team with the SBA, MBL. Everyone is doing a great job of putting the information out. We find ourselves in the position of receiving that information and trying to put it in one location. If you go to our website, you would see several links. You would see webinars that were recorded. You would see documents that people can use to refer to at their leisure. Our main objective is to connect the businesses with that information. We want to be the helpline for businesses. We are doing one-on-one consulting by phone, of course, and trying to help them navigate through all this information. We're inundated with information, which is good, but it can be somewhat overwhelming sometimes for the small businesses. So we're serving as that helpline, that contact point where businesses can call in and say, look, this is what I need, this is what I want. We want to be able to partner them with people in the banking industry if they don't have a relationship, or people that are doing bookkeeping that can help them if they don't already have that. So we want to get down into detail and be the high touch in all this high tech. The one thing we're getting ready to roll out as well is a series of webinars that is industry driven. We're going to be starting next week, and we're going to be doing webinars for personal services, people that have businesses with beauty salons and barbershops and nail techs, and try to get together and do some brainstorming and figure out what are the best practices during this crisis for such business as that, as well as the restaurants and construction. And we were also asked to do something for the faith-based organizations as well. So if I want to leave anything with you, that is that we do have a lot of information, and that people can come to us to help navigate them through this great deal of information that we're all receiving.
Thank you so much, Pat. That was excellent. And now we're going to switch gears. We're actually going to go to Stacy Wells. Stacy Wells, she is the Senior Vice President of Small Business Leader at BB&T, now Truist. Stacy, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today, and good afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this information share. At Truist, our purpose is to inspire and build better communities, and we are committed to helping our business clients during this unprecedented time. Currently, Truist is accepting applications for business and nonprofit clients with a business loan or business deposit relationship with Truist. We've dedicated thousands of Truist teammates to answer questions and process applications, and we continue to post daily updates on our website where clients can visit to both begin the application process and have questions answered at www.truist.com. In addition to participating in the PPP program, we have additional relief efforts in place, including deferred commercial loan payments and commercial deposit account fee waivers. We're encouraging our clients to work directly with their Truist banking partner to understand all of the options available to them. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak a little bit about Truist and how we're committed to helping the community, and I look forward to the Q&A portion of the meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Stacy. And we're just going to take a quick break here. I just have one thing to say. We do have one remaining panelist that we'll introduce before we get to Q&A. So I'd like to remind everyone that you can ask questions at any time. You can use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, or if you have a question for a particular person or organization, please make sure that you include that within your question so that we know who to direct those questions to. Okay? The next expert on our panel is John Ramirez. So John, he is the Vice President, Group Manager with Fulton Bank. John, take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. At Fulton Bank, we change lives for the better. We, as Truist mentioned, are very similar in our process. We have an online application form for the Paycheck Protection Program, and we are focused on helping our current customers, both deposit and loan customers, in that aspect. We are also have additional initiatives through our website, www.fultonbank.com/COVID-19 assistance. and we have different options available for small businesses. We currently have, for small businesses that are still open to their doors, we have a 0% for 3 months, up to $50,000 with no origination fee lines of credit that are available. We also have 0% credit cards for 20 months for small businesses to apply to gain additional capital if they are in need. And we as well support many of the other programs and initiatives along that facet. We have small business lenders. We're open for business. We're looking to help consumers and small businesses in any aspects to do with their, keep their businesses open and afloat. And I look forward to the Q&A questions.
All right, I'm glad everyone's looking forward to the Q&A questions. So what we're going to do is we're going to open it up for all of our speakers. We're going to open, or our panelists today, we're going to open up all of their mics. And we're going to open this opportunity up to you as well. This is an opportunity to ask the experts to help you in your business or organization. So if you have a question for a particular person or organization, please, please, please include that in your question. Very important note, I'll do the caveat for everyone on the panel. As we all know, we're getting new information daily. So please keep that in mind. If our panelists may have a slightly different answer than they did a week ago, as Carl Knoblock indicated in his remarks. In addition, as new information becomes available, we want you all to check with the sources that Jasmine will be listing in the chat at the end of this town hall. So again, if you have any questions, use the Q&A button or raise your hand, and we'll grant you the ability to ask your question. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Jasmine, who's going to help us with the Q&A. Jasmine, take it away.
Thank you, Andrea. So we have had some great questions really in the Q&A box. I do want to go to our first question that we actually had, because I think this has been a question that a lot of people have been asking. It has been answered, but just going back, Holly Miller asked about the Paycheck Protection Plan. And she asks, can we apply with our financial institution if we are a sole proprietor? We are the only employee. We pay ourselves a salary, and all income has halted due to COVID-19. Now, I know, John, you answered this question, but if you can reiterate it, maybe in a condensed version, because the full answer is in the Q&A box if anyone wants to read it, but just reiterate your response to that.
Okay, so the response in the question simply was, as an individual owner-operator, you are eligible for the Paycheck Protection Program. So if you're a small business with less than 500 employees, self-employed, or a contractor, then you're eligible. Now, eligibility for contractors starts on the 10th. So those other small businesses are opened up as of last Friday.
Thank you, John. And I will open up to any other of the other speakers that want to elaborate on that question, or if anyone wants to add any additional input. If not, we do have more questions that we can definitely get to as well. Alrighty, we're going to go on to our next question. This is from Crystal Craig. She says, so many banks are only accepting applications from people who already have a business account with them, Truist included, which leaves those of us whose banks aren't participating in the PPP program high and dry. Where are those whose bank aren't in the PPP program supposed to go?
This is Carl. This is something that was made aware of last Friday to Washington, and Washington right now is working on plans to see what other options they can create, and hopefully by the end of the week they'll have some guidelines as we move forward through this process. It was heard loud and clear Friday about the shortcoming. So it is being investigated in Washington.
Thank you so much, Carl. I'll go on to the next question. This is from Kathy Dolan. And I think if this is not mistaken, this is more of a comment. So it says sole proprietors are eligible to apply for PPP. She says go to spsd.virginia.gov homepage, and at the top it has COVID-19 as info on the PPP and EIDL info that was released on April 3rd, 2020. And I know we will, like Andrea mentioned, I will be putting some links in the chat at the end of the webinar. So definitely take note of those. With SBSD, I know those updates are updated real time. And I don't know if Tracey wants to add on to anything about that.
No, I think Kathy's response is accurate. We've got a lot of information that we share in real time there, but it is changing every day. So I would advise people to go there regularly to check to make sure any of the updates have been posted. But there are about a dozen documents there that they can review.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tracey. Now, this question is from Julie Hinsman, and this is in reference to our last question. So not the comment about SBSD and the resources they provide, but it says, what would be better, a PPP or unemployment?
This is Carl. I had this question and with sole proprietors, and sole proprietors can look at the EIDL 10,000. They can look at the P3, and they can look at unemployment. And what it comes down to is number crunching. You have to crunch your numbers to see which gives you the biggest return at the end. If you have no bills that you have to pay, like a rent, lease, utilities, anything like that, you know, unemployment may be the easier caveat to go to. But if you do have bills you have to pay to that are related to the business, it may be better to go with the payment protection program or the EIDL 10,000 as a sole proprietor.
Thank you, Carl. This question is from Nicole Mason. She asks, could the city clarify the loan program if it's open to business owners who have contractors and not full-time workers? Is that correct?
Businesses, the city's program, one of the criteria is we specify small businesses as having fewer than 25 full-time employees.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We have another question still with the city. This comes from Tamika Jefferson, more so of a comment. She says to ask to elaborate on the resources available to the faith-based community. I know this was addressed to Ms. Foster.
Could you repeat that? I didn't hear you.
Of course. It says to elaborate on the resources available to the faith-based community.
We're going to be having that webinar on tomorrow at 1:30.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And if Pat, if you can actually send me an email for the information for that webinar, we can definitely distribute it out to the attendees on the call today.
No problem.
Another question comes from, I'm sorry if I'm saying the name wrong. I know it's Mr. Johnson. He says, hello, I applied for the economic relief loan. How many other loans can I apply for?
So for the city of Richmond's program, if applicants we are not, let me restate. If an applicant has applied for other programs, whether it be federal, private, what have you, that does not disqualify them from applying for the city's loan program.
Perfect.
This is Carl. Once again, they can apply for the economic injury disaster loan. They can apply for the payroll protection plan program. The only thing is the proceeds cannot be used for the same thing. They have to be used for different activities.
Awesome. This next question comes from Kim Washington. It says, I'm a licensed street food vendor and caterer. Is there any help for my business? For my business, I'm the only full-time person. And I want to ask Kim Washington, I'm actually going to ask Kathy, if you could unmute her mic and more so elaborate. Are you referring to the PPP plan or anything in particular are you referring to?
Kim has been unmuted. Kim, please just make sure that you hit allow to speak on your end. That will allow you the opportunity to speak.
I think Kim, oh, there she is. We got it. Okay.
Yes. I was just wondering in general, Well, it's for my husband, for real. He's a street food vendor, and I was just wondering, is there anything that's available for him? He has I did apply for him as far as the what is it? The disaster loan. And we did apply for that, but I'm just wondering, is that the only thing he can apply for?
If you go back to the first question, if the individual is self-employed who regular carries on a trade or business, then he would be applicable for the Paycheck Protection Program.
Even though he has no employees? I mean, he has.
He is an employee himself.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, I get it.
Yes.
But can he use both of them at the same? He can't use both of them, though.
You can apply for both. Now the key is you can't necessarily use the funds for the same item. So you can't duplicate payroll for payroll. So one to help support the business, one for payroll, kind of set.
Okay. He has a food trailer that he's buying in the middle of buying. So he can use that for like the lease. I mean, well, not the lease, but I guess, mortgage on that.
So the Paycheck Protection Program has a 25% of the total amount that you are able to leverage as a mortgage, lease, or rent payment, and then utilities. So you can only use 25% of the PPP program for that type. The other 75% has to be used for payroll, and then the total funds have to be used within the 8-week time period from when you get it.
Okay.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, John.
Kim.
I will say, everyone, thank you so much for asking these questions in the box. I know we do have some people that are also making responses to questions that are in here. I will say, if you are making a response or a comment to a question that is already in here, you can actually press the type answer button, and then you can type your response, if I'm not mistaken, so that we know what response is with what question and to help other attendees out. Going to another question. This is from Janelle May, and she asks, do you know or have a date for unemployment insurance that the governor is going to make available for gig workers or sole proprietors to be able to receive by applying?
Well, this is Tracy. I don't have a date, but I would suggest that you go to VEC to see. They've been updating information regularly every night on information related to employment. And if you would go there, or if you can send your email information to mine, I'd be happy to get that information for you after the meeting.
Thank you, Tracy. Another question is from Gail. Gail asks, hello, can you explain a little more about the bridge loan program, and if it is recommended, which SBA location will be the closest for us to contact or send the application and attachments to?
This is Carl. They're talking about the $25,000 bridge loan that's done by the lenders. This was created a few years back when we got hit with some hurricanes that came together, and people were needing money quicker than the SBA disaster could get out through the economic injury disaster loan. So this bridge loan was created working with the SBA lenders that they could put out up to $25,000 in the interim. And then as the person got their economic injury disaster loan money, they could basically put that money back to the lending institution to pay that loan off. So that's the purpose of it, and it's a case-by-case basis based on what the wants and needs of that company at that point in time, what demands it has going on.
Jazz, there's a question in the chat about the city's loan program, and it was asking essentially if the business or the individual hasn't filed their 2019 tax returns yet. I would suggest that the last 2 complete years being 2018 and 2017 then.
Thank you so much. That was actually the question I was going to next, so that was perfect. I know we do have, I wanted to say thank you or give a shout out to Jean Rogers. Gene Rogers puts in the Q&A box, QuickBooks payroll, if you use them, they are accepting applications. He said also Cabbage funding. And with Cabbage funding, he said you don't have to have a current relationship with them. He or she, I'm sorry, they've used them in the past for working capital funding, so they're legit. So thank you so much, Gene, for providing that additional information to us. I will go to another question. It's this from Valerie. She asks, what documentation is required for the PPP? Can we document owners who receive 1099s? Can we retroactively submit 1099s, I'm sorry, for the owners?
This is Carl. Yes, they can submit 1099s with it. They can submit, whatever their accountant provides. It's just showing the history of how their payment schedule went.
This question was sent in anonymously, and it asks, I'm a Wells Fargo client. I was able to get my interest form submitted, but they shut it down. What are my options if they don't end up providing me a loan when I don't have a relationship with other banks?
I don't think we have a Wells Fargo a representative on the call that would, maybe be able to answer that. But I do think it was answered in the earlier question about that Carl mentioned earlier, Jasmine, about, knowing, that you'd have to have a relationship with other banks, and that the folks in Washington right now are kind of working on a solution for this problem. Is that right, Carl? I think you talked a little bit about it earlier.
Yes, I did, and thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, it's being looked at. It was well known on Friday that we had this issue going on, so they're looking at the alternative solutions. So everyone has an opportunity business-wise to pursue the funds.
Can I just disclose one thing that is a possibility? And I'm not saying that you are required to do this, nor that you have to do that. But what banks are looking for is a small business relationship, whether it be a checking account or savings account or a loan for the small business and the small business entity. I am not aware that they're checking to see how long that relationship has been with that financial institution other than that one occurs. So, in theory, if you were to establish a relationship with a bank that is offering the program, then you should thus be able to apply. I'm not saying that that's what somebody has to do. I'm making just a general observation and providing a theory.
Thank you so much for including that, John. Jasmine, back to you.
All right, the next question is from Melinda. She asks, so if we already applied, should we reapply on the 10th as a sole proprietor?
If you've already submitted your application into the Paycheck Protection Program, there's no need to reapply.
Thank you so much, John. Let's go. I'm looking at some questions in the chat. You guys are doing awesome with giving some feedback on some questions that have already been asked.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now have 15 minutes remaining left.
Thanks, Sarah.
And this is to all panelists from Shamika. She asks, there's a question on the PPP application that references criminal background. Is this a disqualify? Will background be a factor at city level?
If the question is whether or not someone who has a criminal background disqualified from applying for the city's disaster loan program, the answer is no. That's not one of the criteria that we've identified.
Thank you for that answer. There's a question from Karen. She asks, are commissions included in payroll allotment?
And I think she went further and said, are bonuses and commissions included in the payroll protection program?
There we go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, commissions are included in the program, and if your bonuses are part of your normal process, you just have to document it.
Just be aware that there is a cap of $100,000 for each individual employee. So you cannot go above $100,000 in the cost for each employee.
Thank you, John. One question comes from Smith. Last name is Smith. It reads, our small business isn't affected yet. Can we apply for the PPP based upon economic uncertainty, or does our need have to be immediately?
Hey, this is Stacy with Truist. The funds are available until they run out through June 30th. So you could technically wait. However, as I believe it was John mentioned earlier, once the funds are dispersed from the payroll protection program, you do have to use the funds within 8 weeks to be considered for forgiveness. So it's important that when you do apply for the loan, that you're prepared to use the funding in order to be considered for forgiveness.
Thank you, Stacy. One question from Crystal Craig. She asks, in regards to the PPP program, she currently has payroll set up, but also as the owner of the business. So let me read that back. I currently have payroll set up, but also as the owner of the business. I take an owner's DRE on top of.
She takes an owner's draw. Mm-hmm.
Owner's draw on top of, thank you, on top of the payroll. Would the total monthly payroll include the monthly owner's draw or just the payroll?
It really comes down to what you can provide with documentation to support it. Mm-hmm. And that's what the banks are looking at, is the supporting documentation to provide the allocation of funds.
This is Carl. If the draw has come up as a common question, and the process, and one of the things I've heard is I've talked to several of those people, it's the documentation. They're not able to pull the information clearly to show that that's what the purpose of that draw was for. So if you have not shown that distinction clearly, it's very hard for the lending institution to say that's a payroll action.
Thanks, Carl. And I know that Jasmine is sorting out some of the questions because we're getting a lot in a bunch of different platforms. Mm-hmm. We are going to go into lightning round. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat and in the Q&A box. And this is a time that we want to make sure that we get through everybody's questions. So I'm going to say to the panelists, forgive us if you've already answered it. We're just going to ask it one more time because we want to say that we've answered everyone's question who asked the question. And I'll start while Jasmine's kind of getting all of the questions and thoughts together. And this one's for you, Carl. The application, and I'm assuming it's the PPP, the application states that all owners must be on the application if they own 20% or more of the business. It also states that the applicants cannot have had any type of bankruptcy. My partner and I have another partner within the business that has filed bankruptcy in the past 2 years. Is there any way around this situation?
Right now, yeah, because it's 7 years is the mark, and I'm thinking this is not the payroll protection plan. I think this is more along the lines of the economic injury disaster loan, because that's where it's more spelled out. The thing is I tell everyone, for the economic injury disaster loan, you just submit the packet. They'll make the decision, the loan processors, because they're getting guidelines from people from that division on what is accepted or not accepted. So I just tell people to proceed forward and let them make the decision if it's on the economic injury disaster loan side, because they have to look at the full picture. That person may be, just 20%, and the other players may be 40 and 40. So it's kind of those different factors they have to look at. That's what their job is as loan processors with the disaster group.
All right, let's go to lightning round, Jasmine. Get them all in if you can.
All right, Ralph Cosby, when applying for the PPP, are you able to establish a different business account for the funds made available to increase better record keeping and accountability to reach the 75 to 25% threshold?
When applying for the PPP, are you able to establish a different business account for the funds when they're made available to increase better record keeping and accountability?
You're welcome to have as many deposit accounts as you want. That has no impact on the loan itself. That would be just preference of the business for allocating and keeping track of your funding.
Mm-hmm.
Karen asks, for the PPP, if the business has both employees and contractors, should I wait to apply on April 10th or now?
Why wait?
I love that answer. All right, this one reads, Crystal Craig, if the proceeds for the EIDL loans and PPP loans need to be used for separate things, is there a time limit for when the EIDL funds need to be used?
EIDL funds are basically June 30th is the end of the payment protection plan. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program runs from basically February until December of 2020. So it's a loan, and it's based on your agreement that you come with term-wise. So if it's up to 30 years, it's up to 30 years to pay that back.
Thank you. Another one for PPP, are you eligible if you've never paid yourself before?
The PPP loan amount is based on historical payroll report. So if there's no historical payroll report, the information required by the banks to determine and for you to determine the loan amount will be difficult. Maybe a better solution to do one of the EIDL.
Janelle asks, just to be clear, the EIDL is for sole proprietors and the PPP loan is for the same, but it appears that some banks are having us apply for them through the banks. However, with the SBA, it appears that you don't have to do that. You apply directly with them. I just want to be sure that I did the right thing.
Well, if it was what most people have been doing is the 10,000, and that's the SBA. And if you're looking at the payroll protection, it's a totally separate form. And if you took the wrong form to the lending institution, they will let you know immediately. So in all likelihood, you probably did it correctly.
Alrighty, next one comes from Debbie. It says, our bank lender has contracted with Cabbage. We attempted to apply and our application appears to be in limbo. Cabbage is saying we need to upload documents, but does not give us an option to upload anything, nor is there any documents listed below for us to upload. We went onto the SBA website to search for lenders near us to confirm our bank was listed, and our lender bank is not listed as a lender. So can we go on SBA website and apply using their application?
Is this talking about a payment protection plan?
It didn't say. It just is kind of open. Yeah, Debbie.
Because if they were doing the search tool where find a lender in your area, not all lenders are identified in that area. And then also at the same time, some lenders that are identified are not participating. So it's a case-by-case basis to talk to the local lender and find out specifically are they a part of this or not.
And she did say yes, it was in regards to that. So you did answer. It says she says our lender confirmed they were. Awesome, thank you so much. Last one that I see is from Karen. Will the PPP include the ability to pay back pay for contractors to be properly compensated for the time lost prior to funding?
Carl, did you catch that? Or maybe Stacy or
Yeah,
John? Okay.
I was just seeing if anybody else was going to jump in. I was looking for a breather here.
Hey, you're it. You're the star of this show at SBA.
The question is, when they say back pay for timeline, is the specific date, and it has to correlate to when the disaster was identified. So if it's anything after February 15th, okay, but if it's not, no. You know, it's just the 8 weeks if they're talking the payment protection plan. So whether they try to back or go forward, I mean, in all likelihood, everybody's looking forward because that's where they're going to have to recover. But it's only 8 weeks. That's all you got. If you're looking at the economic injury disaster loan, you can go back there and you just figure that into your cost when you're applying for your economic injury disaster loan for the amount you're requesting.
I think that's it. I think we have everyone. Okay, because either that or we're going to have to stop it being it. So this is the end of our time today. Thank you so much, Jasmine, for navigating our Q&A for us. That was a lot. And thank you all to the participants on the call. It was a lot of folks, so thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you especially to our panelists. Thank you, Leonard. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Tracey. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, John. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you all so much for joining us today. And I am going to turn it over to Melody. I'm going to have you close us out for this town hall.
Wonderful. I'd also like to say thank you on behalf of the MBL to all of our panelists today. I know earlier I was a bit choppy, so I'm hopeful that I've cleared that up. So I wanted to reiterate, we invite everyone on the call to learn more about the MBL, to include programming opportunities, special events, and promotions, to include our upcoming promotion in which we are offering individuals free membership for 3 months. This will allow everyone to take advantage of our robust offerings now, because we realize, again, these are unprecedented times that require unprecedented measures and sources of support. You'll be able to access these details very soon on our website at thembl.org, along with ways in which you can support the MBL so that we can continue doing the important work of serving the small business community. And so just to close it out, thank you again for spending your lunch hour with us. We're hopeful you are leaving the session more informed and encouraged. We ask that you join us for the 4 remaining sessions of the Metropolitan Business League Town Hall Series, scheduled every Tuesday and Thursday at 12 p.m. through April 21st. Join us for our next session this Thursday, April 9th, where we will share tools for entrepreneurs to manage physical and mental health during COVID-19. So we'll be featuring special guests Rita Ricks and Natasha Freeman. And as always, continue to follow us on Facebook at the MBL and Instagram at MBLRBA for the latest information on resources, programming, and special events in support of minority and women-owned businesses. Happy Tuesday, everyone.